quote here that sort of iterates sort of the importance of patterns, right? If we all build stuff, we know the importance of patterns, right? It lets you solve problems easier. And so getting into this pattern from the web evolution, how were an applications originally built? So one of my very first jobs was I actually built an application using Microsoft Access. If you remember that, Access was the application, they were tightly integrated. And then we saw this host of related applications come out along these same lines. CGI scripts, Oracle popularized the stored procedures. It was a really big deal. I remember the time when .NET and the J2E frameworks came out. And all of these, we still had, again, this tight lamp really benefited us at Red Hat, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, big driver of early days of Red Hat. And in all these, though, we still had this type coupling. But then what started to happen was the internet started to happen. And we saw these initial frameworks start to break apart the data from the application. And so we saw examples of the REST APIs, the Spring frameworks, Ruby on Rails, things like this coming about. And so where we are today with Web 2 is we're in these highly decentralized microservices, many of those relying on a very specific point database. We went from 4 databases being the entire enterprise world 15 years ago to probably 200 databases in production in enterprises today with microservices. And so this pattern, we're seeing the same pattern play out in Web 3, right? We had this complete decoupling. And now if we look at what's happening within Web 3, it's developing in similar fashion, right? We started out with Bitcoin, sort of singular purpose, store of value. The app is sort of the coin itself. We started layering on smart contracts, right? So conditional transactions. We saw sort of the accelerated evolution of layer 2 solutions in response to gas fees, things like this. Cross-chain bridges form the abstraction layer so the app can interact with different types of chains. We get into Web3 abstraction, where you're basically abstracting the minutiae, the details about the blockchain itself, and then to obviously purpose-built chains. You can see the parallel, right? From this combined integrated app into sort of a dedicated service app, and then a very tailored store of data for that information. And so I think Web 3 is well on its way to sort of taking the same path that Web 2 did. And so then the questions start becoming, all right, we see through this gradually decoupling, specialized components. Who is Tatum? We help you do this. So we basically are an infrastructure provider, so RPC, notifications, indexing of data, SDK, tooling around it. And the pitch is basically, take this journey, right? Go from the tightly integrated app. Maybe initially you use a provider like Tatum as sort of backup for some of the underlying infrastructure around blockchain itself. At some point, maybe primary, and then we help you. And why you want to do this is you want to maintain that core focus on your business. It's about driving innovation, value for your shareholders, where you're trying to focus in on the market. And a big part of this, and I think comes back to this notion of community that's so inherent in open source and Web3, is there's a tremendous amount of innovation that happens in the community. We've got about 20,000 developers on our platform. There's all kinds of experimentation going on around blockchain itself, from indexing of data to caching of data, faster response times. We see pushing down optimization and gas fees, AI for new ways of expressing that data. So take advantage of that. And then most important, and I think we've heard this in several of the other presentations, you want to sort of match the requirements for your customer, right? You want to be able to go where your customers are going. You want that flexibility across to move across chains, even be sort of chain agnostic, have multi-chain solutions. And I'll get to in the end here, we have a slide, but I do appreciate people that filled out the survey. There was sort of a mix of people wanting to be multi-chain, not be multi-chain, being multi-chain today, running stuff in-house. And we'll talk about some of those details. But here's a code. If you go to this page on our website, there's discounts for everyone in the Animoca portfolio. Drop me a note. I'm here with our head of marketing, Montes, who's a great guy. Catch us down the hallway, get our telegram. Love to send you the survey results at a minimum so you can see sort of what other peers and other groups within Animoca are doing in terms of this decoupling of applications from data. And yeah, look forward to meeting folks.